Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called The Can Opener. So I rent out rooms in my house, usually to friends or friends of friends. A couple years back I let this guy move in. He was the ex-husband of a friend and I felt sorry for him. I even gave him a discount on rent. He still fell behind. He turned out to be the worst roommate I've ever had, for many reasons. One big issue was food. He basically lived off canned goods, unless he was raiding my food. And every single day he used my can opener. Then one day he broke it. And instead of apologizing, he came to me and said with a straight face, "Since you are the landlord, you need to buy a new can opener." Now, before I get to the malicious compliance, let me paint the picture. This man had a Harvard PhD. He never used it in his minimum wage job, but he never missed a chance to remind me that his PhD was from Harvard, while mine was from a state school. Never mind that I actually had a career in my field, or that the program I came from had multiple Nobel laureates, some of whom I'd worked with personally. Meanwhile, he had no marketable skills and spent his life mooching off others. Anyway, malicious compliance time. I did get him a new can opener, but not just any can opener. I bought one of those tricky ones that looks and works kind of like an electric opener, except it's manual. It's the kind that takes a second to figure out, but once you know, it's easy. And I knew, absolutely knew, he wouldn't be able to figure it out. Sure enough, I started finding mangled cans in the garbage. Not even recycling, just the garbage. Eventually he came to me holding the can opener and asked, "Hey, can you show me how this works?" I just smiled and said, "Well, if a guy with a Harvard degree can figure it out, I'm sure a guy like me from a state school shouldn't need to explain it." The next story is called Not a Painter. Here in upstate New York, there's a well-known government and military contract facility. They produce very niche but very vital military assets. Back in the 70s and 80s, both my dad and my uncle worked there as old-school machinists, before CNC machines were even a thing. The facility was massive, filled with equipment in every possible state of use. One day, my uncle's supervisor noticed that one of the machines, a bandsaw I think, was looking a little shabby. So he decided to assign my uncle the task of painting it. Now, my uncle was a machinist. He felt this was well below his position, so he ignored the order. When asked why he hadn't painted it, he simply said, "I'm not good at painting. You should get someone who actually is." The supervisor wasn't having it. He told my uncle flat out, paint the bandsaw or else. So, cue malicious compliance. My uncle did paint the bandsaw, but he painted it exactly the way someone who isn't good at painting and doesn't want to be painting would. First he dragged the job out, taking as much time as possible. He carefully painted every single surface of the bandsaw, the blade, the control knobs, even the power cord. By the end the bandsaw was completely covered, but there was still paint left in the can, and my uncle wasn't about to waste it. So he dumped the entire can across the machine, letting the paint run and drip over everything. The next day, the supervisor saw the finished bandsaw and called my uncle into his office. "What were you thinking?" he demanded. My uncle just shrugged and said, "I told you, I'm not good at painting. You should have had someone else do it." The third story is called Gas Compliance. This happened about 12 years ago, when I was an assistant manager at a gas station. This station allowed people to pump first, then pay. It was meant as a convenience, so customers didn't overpay and need a refund. But here's the catch. If customers selected that option at the pump and tried to pay with a card at the pump, it wouldn't work, meaning free gas. So it was standard protocol to explain to people that if they wanted that option, they had to come inside to pay at the register. Now, one day, a regular customer pulled up in a fairly new Ram. He went to the pump that dispensed both diesel and regular gas. Since he was a regular, I didn't bother reminding him about the pay inside thing. But I looked at the camera and noticed something. He was using the black gas nozzle instead of the green diesel nozzle. For anyone who doesn't know, putting gasoline in a diesel engine is basically a disaster waiting to happen. So I hustled outside. "Sir," I called a couple of times trying to get his attention. He waved me off. I know, I have to pay at the register. That's not what I'm here for. You are, whatever it is, it can wait until I'm done. I'm talking to my friend. Tell me when I get to the register. But sir, you are pump. I said it can wait until I'm done. Malicious compliance time. Okay, I'll tell you when you get to the register. So I went back inside and watched on the camera as he filled both his main tank and his reserve tank. Gas was $3.23 a gallon at the time, and he pumped about 50 gallons. The total was roughly $175 worth of gasoline. He finally came in, laughing with his buddy, tossed me his credit card, and I rang him up, handed him his receipt. Then I said, "Can I tell you what I was going to tell you earlier now?" His tone softened immediately. "Sure, what is it?" "You just put 50 gallons of gasoline into a diesel truck." The smile dropped off his face. Well, screw me, I guess. He and his friend ended up pushing the truck to a parking space behind the pumps. An hour later, a tow truck came to haul him and his very expensive mistake away. His friend called an Uber. So by refusing to let me get a word in, he ended up paying $175 for fuel he couldn't use, a tow truck bill he didn't need, and a mechanic's bill to drain both tanks, all because he didn't want to be interrupted. The last story is called Customers Only. Years ago, I worked as a parking lot attendant for a high-end restaurant. The rule was simple. Parking was for customers only. Not even employees were allowed. One day, a cook showed up late and I let him park. He was running behind and I was trying to help. The manager, Tony, chewed me out for it. The cook even apologized to me because I was the one who got in trouble. Fast forward. One night, the owner's daughter rolled in. Total spoiled brat. I stopped her. "Sorry, customers only." She lost it. I repeated, "Sorry." Tony just yelled at me. He said customers only. She ended up having to parallel park 4 blocks away and scratched her bumper backing into a street sign. Next thing I know, Tony storms out and fires me on the spot. It was just a beer money job, so I told him exactly where he could stick it. Couple days later, the owner himself calls me, apologizes. Turns out the whole thing blew up into restaurant drama, and the employees took my side. He admitted I did the right thing letting the cook park, and Tony completely overreacted. And of course he knew I was just enforcing the rules when I wouldn't let his daughter park. He even offered me my job back. I politely declined. Couple months later, I heard the guy who replaced me was fired. Turns out he was taking bribes to let random people park in the lot and never even eat at the restaurant. And Tony got canned too. Turns out he'd been fudging sales numbers and skimming money from the till every night. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.